So in 1908, a young journalist started tracking 500 of the wealthiest, most powerful people on Earth.
Which is just a massive undertaking to even think about doing back then.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he spent 25 years looking for their secret advantage. And what he found wasn't, a trust fund.
Right, or like some fancy Ivy League degree.
Exactly. It wasn't a specific business model either. It was this terrifyingly specific mental architecture. So welcome to today's deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one.
We are unpacking our source notes on the architecture of success, focusing directly on the foundational principles of Napoleon Hill's famous book, Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, and looking at the sheer scale of the data set behind this, I mean, it is genuinely staggering.
It really is 25 years of observation.
Right, because when you hear a title like Think and Grow Rich, the modern reflex is to assume it's just another quick self-help pamphlet,
Yeah, like something you'd pick up at an airport bookstore.
Exactly. But the scale of the research is what elevates it to a foundational text. This wasn't just a weekend project where someone jotted down some motivational quotes.
No, definitely not.
Napoleon Hill spent a quarter of a century studying the lives, the daily habits, and, well, the psychological frameworks of titans like Andrew Carnegie and Thomas Edison.
Just think about that level of dedication. He essentially devoted his adult life to finding the common denominators among people who literally built the modern world.
He was observing the underlying mechanics of how these individuals actually bent reality to their will.
And the sources we have today distill this massive study down into 6 core foundational principles. But as we start unpacking this, it's really easy to hear these principles and think they're just like isolated tips to try out on a Tuesday.
Which is the most common mistake people make with this material, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot treat these principles like an a la carte menu. They are a completely integrated mental framework. They operate together systematically.
Kind of like an engine.
Right, to take an abstract thought and forge it into a physical outcome. If you skip a step or misunderstand the mechanics of one principle, the entire architecture just falls apart.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the absolute genesis of any achievement. The sources call it the engine, or, as Hill categorizes it, burning desire and absolute faith.
That's the core of it all.
Every massive achievement in human history clearly starts with a thought, right? But the notes are very careful to distinguish between a passing wish and an absolute obsession.
The distinction is critical because they produce entirely different biological and psychological responses. I mean, a simple desire is passive.
Like saying, oh, it'd be nice to have a successful business.
Exactly. But a burning desire, to use Hill's exact phrasing, is an active, all-consuming state of mind. It is a desire so intense that it creates literal tunnel vision.
Wow, tunnel vision.
Yeah, your goal becomes so prominent in your daily cognition that all other alternatives, all backup plans, and all distractions just fade into the background.
And Hill outlines a very specific, practical way to create this state, doesn't he?
He does. He says you must write down the exact metric of your goal, like the exact amount of money you want on a piece of paper, look at it every single day, and vividly imagine having already achieved it.
Now, I have to push back here a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Because when I read that, writing a number on a paper and staring at it, it sounds like pseudoscientific manifesting.
It does sound a bit out there at first glance.
Right. It sounds like we're just sitting around waiting for the universe to drop a bag of cash on our doorstep. I mean, does the data actually support this, or is this just 1930s magical thinking?
What's fascinating here is that it sounds like magic until you look at the underlying neurology.
Okay, I'm listening.
The sources might use older language, but what they're actually describing is the activation of the reticular activating system, or the RAS, in your brain.
The RAS, right.
Yeah. Your brain is bombarded with millions of bits of information every single second. To keep you from going completely insane, the RAS filters out like 99% of it.
So it's a filtering mechanism.
Exactly. It only lets through what it deems important to your survival or your focus. By actively writing down a hyper-specific goal and visualizing it daily, you are manually programming your RAS.
Oh, I see. You're telling your brain, hey, this is important.
You're telling it, this specific outcome is now critical to my survival. Suddenly you start noticing opportunities, resources, and connections that were actually always there.
But your brain was just previously filtering them out as background noise.
Precisely.
Okay, that makes so much more sense. It's not magic, it's targeted filtering. It's kind of like setting a destination in a GPS.
That's a great way to put it.
Because just typing an address into your phone doesn't magically teleport you to that location, right?
Yeah.
You still have to drive the car.
You definitely still have to drive.
But typing it in forces the system to calculate the exact route, and it tells the system to ignore all the other millions of roads that will distract you.
The GPS analogy is a really good start, but it's actually even more aggressive than that.
Really? How so?
It's not just filtering out distracting roads, it's literally altering how your brain perceives risk and capability. And that is where the second component comes in faith.
Because a burning desire without faith isn't an engine, is it?
No, it's just a recipe for chronic anxiety. Faith in this framework is a complete, unwavering internal belief that the goal is achievable.
Meaning absolutely zero doubts.
Zero doubts about your own agency. Desire is the fuel, but faith is the combustion that turns that fuel into forward motion.
And what's interesting is that the sources note you actually have to build this faith. Like you aren't necessarily born with it.
Right, it's a constructed state.
It is constructed through affirmations, which are positive statements repeated continuously. But again, to ground this, these aren't just empty pep talks in the mirror, are they?
Far from it. Think of affirmations as the structural maintenance of your belief system.
Structural maintenance, I like that.
Because when you drive that GPS route, you are going to hit massive roadblocks. If your internal belief is weak, the moment you hit a detour, you'll just turn around and go home.
Yeah, you just give up immediately.
Affirmations are the deliberate reinforcement of those neural pathways. You're aggressively overriding your brain's natural negativity bias.
So that when failure happens, your first instinct is to pivot, not to quit.
Exactly.
But what happens when you hit a wall and that faith really starts to crack?
It's going to happen to everyone.
Let's say I've got my goal written down, my RAS is primed, and I'm feeling this absolute faith. What happens on a random Tuesday when, I don't know, a major client pulls out, the bank denies a loan, and the stress is just overwhelming?
That's the real test right there.
Right. How do you maintain that state when the external world is just screaming that you are failing?
That is the exact breaking point for most people, and it's why the next step in the architecture is so absolutely vital.
The reprogramming step.
Yes, you have to manually program your brain to handle that stress. The sources call this autosuggestion and imagination.
Autosuggestion and imagination.
Right, these are the tools for reprogramming the system when the default programming fails. Autosuggestion is the deliberate practice of giving instructions to yourself to literally code your subconscious mind.
So what does this all mean? If I can offer an analogy here, it sounds to me like we're essentially hacking our own mental software.
I think that's a very accurate way to visualize it.
So if our brain is a computer, autosuggestion is the literal code we are typing into the terminal.
It is, but we need to recognize a major vulnerability in that software. The subconscious mind is incredibly powerful, but it's also entirely uncritical.
Meaning it doesn't judge the code you type in.
Exactly. It does not filter out bad ideas. It just accepts the instructions it is given, whether those instructions are helpful or completely destructive.
Wow. So if you're constantly stressed.
If you constantly feed it thoughts of fear, doubt, and poverty, even accidentally, through complaining or stressing, it will accept that as the official code and build a reality based on it.
That's a bit terrifying.
It is. Most people are constantly writing malware into their own brains without even realizing it. Hill's principle of autosuggestion is about taking manual control of that keyboard.
So we're always coding. We just need to decide if we're going to write the script on purpose.
Exactly.
And then there's the imagination component. Hill famously calls the mind a workshop.
The workshop, yes.
He says before anything can take physical form in reality, it absolutely must first take shape in your thoughts and imagination.
Right. If autosuggestion is the code, the imagination workshop is the 3D rendering program.
Oh, I like that, the 3D rendering.
It's where you test the prototype. You're visually constructing the building in your mind, stress testing it, and refining the blueprints before you buy a single piece of steel.
Visualizing the success clears the cognitive path for it to actually be executed.
It really does. It paves the way.
Okay, so let's say I've coded my subconscious, and I have absolute faith. I've got this beautiful, flawless 3D model in my imagination workshop.
You're halfway there.
But if I don't actually know how to build a product or run a business, I'm just a highly confident person sitting in an empty room.
Well, that's a very real trap people fall into.
Mindset is great, but how does this framework solve the massive gap between having a great vision and having actual real-world competence?
That is the transition from the internal world to the external world, and it requires specific tools. The sources are very clear on this point. General knowledge is practically useless for this level of achievement.
Really useless.
For this specific purpose, yes. You can be the trivia champion of the world, holding 5 different broad degrees, and it will not build the skyscraper. You need deep, specialized knowledge.
Ah, specialized knowledge. It makes me think of the difference between a skeleton key and a highly specific lockpick.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, general knowledge is like a skeleton key, right? It might get you through a few basic low-level doors in life.
Right, basic access.
But if you're trying to crack a high-security vault, a skeleton key is completely useless. You need a lockpick that is engineered for the exact internal mechanics of that specific vault. It requires intense, narrow focus.
A lockpick is a much better way to think about it than just raw intelligence.
Yeah.
Because a lockpick implies active, precise application. It's not just about hoarding specialized information. It's about knowing how to apply that specific knowledge towards the exact goal you've defined.
It's about execution.
Exactly. Take Henry Ford. He wasn't the most broadly educated man in the world, but he possessed highly specialized knowledge regarding assembly line mechanics and leverage.
He knew exactly how to pick his specific lock.
Right. But even with the perfect lockpick, sometimes the lock is rusted, sometimes the pins jam, and that brings us to the mechanism of persistence.
Hill identifies persistence as the absolute biggest secret to success, doesn't he?
The absolute biggest.
It means refusing to give up no matter how many defeats or obstacles you face. But again, it's easy to read that and think it just means be stubborn.
Which is how most people interpret it.
But the sources frame it as a mechanical necessity.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is entirely mechanical. Stubbornness is an emotional reaction. Persistence is a structural force.
A structural force. Can you unpack that?
Instead of thinking of it as a personality trait, think of persistence like the compounding pressure of a hydraulic press.
Oh, wow. A hydraulic press.
Yeah. A hydraulic press doesn't get frustrated, it doesn't get tired. It simply applies consistent, inescapable, compounding pressure to an object until the structure of that object fundamentally changes.
That's a powerful image.
When we look at someone like Thomas Edison, one of the prime subjects of Hill's research, his 10,000 failures before inventing the light bulb weren't acts of stubbornness.
They were 10,000 applications of hydraulic pressure against the problem of electrical resistance.
Exactly.
That reframes failure completely. Every failure is just another crank on the hydraulic press. The pressure is building, even if the object hasn't crushed yet.
Precisely. The journey from the imagination workshop to physical reality spans over a massive gap of failures, rejections, and bankruptcies.
And persistence is what bridges that gap.
Persistence is the structural integrity that holds you together while the pressure does its work. If your persistence breaks, the pressure drops to zero, and the idea never leaves the mental workshop.
But listening to all of this, I gotta say, it sounds incredibly exhausting and solitary.
It does sound like a lonely road.
Yeah, just me against the vault with my lockpick and my hydraulic press. Did these 500 titans of industry really just lock themselves in a room and brute force the modern world all by themselves?
Not at all, and that is actually one of the most surprising findings in Hill's 25 years of research.
Really? They had help.
Nobody builds the skyscraper alone, no matter how perfect their mindset is. You simply cannot generate enough hydraulic pressure by yourself. In this framework, the solution to that limitation is called the mastermind group.
The mastermind group. Which honestly sounds a bit like a secret society of supervillains.
Yeah, it does have that ring to it. But mechanically, it's the active pooling of specialized knowledge, energy, and resources.
Okay, so it's a team effort.
A very specific kind of team. A mastermind group is a highly curated team of people with aligned goals who operate in perfect harmony. It creates a collective cognitive energy that is exponentially greater than the sum of its parts.
So going back to Edison.
Right, let's go back to Edison. He didn't just sit in a lab alone. He formed a literal mastermind group with Henry Ford, Harvey Firestone, and a naturalist named John Burroughs. They actually called themselves the Vagabonds.
Wait, really? I didn't know they actually organized like that.
They did. They took these annual camping trips together, but these weren't just vacations. They were high-level strategic summits.
Oh, wow.
They cross-pollinated their specialized knowledge. Ford's understanding of mass manufacturing aided Edison's raw invention. They shared resources, they challenged each other's assumptions.
And most importantly, they probably provided the emotional reinforcement, right?
Exactly. They provided the emotional and intellectual reinforcement necessary to maintain that absolute faith and persistence when their individual hydraulic presses were running out of steam.
It's like linking a bunch of computer processors together to form a supercomputer.
That's a perfect analogy.
You exponentially increase the processing power, allowing you to solve problems that would completely fry a single hard drive.
Absolutely.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me. We're talking about titans of industry. The title of the book is Think and Grow Rich. The word rich is right there on the cover.
It is indeed.
You would assume the ultimate goal of the mastermind, the ultimate goal of all this persistence and autosuggestion is purely financial, just massive bank vaults of cash. But the sources explicitly redefine wealth.
They do, and it is a crucial paradigm shift that often gets overlooked. According to the research distilled here, wealth is not merely the accumulation of capital.
It's broader than that.
Much broader. If you arrive at the end of your GPS route with a heavy bank account, but your mind is chaotic, your relationships are destroyed, and your life feels empty, the architecture has fundamentally failed. True richness in this framework is completely holistic.
Which is such a surprising twist for a book famous for telling people how to get rich.
It really flips the script on what we consider a successful life. Financial independence is absolutely a component, but true wealth equally requires unshakable self-confidence, profound peace of mind, physical well-being, and ultimately living a life infused with purpose.
So the mastermind isn't just about making money.
The mastermind isn't just there to help you make money, it's there to help you cultivate an environment where holistic wealth can thrive. And it all culminates in the core summary provided by the sources, a phrase that has echoed through the last century.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. It's a really powerful summary. You conceive it in the imagination workshop, you believe it through absolute faith and autosuggestion, and you achieve it with specialized knowledge, persistence, and the collective power of a mastermind.
But looking at that ecosystem, this raises an important question about how we curate our daily environments. Because the mastermind principle works in both directions.
What do you mean by both directions?
Well, if surrounding yourself with a dedicated group of goal-oriented people can elevate your RAS and multiply your success, it means your future is deeply, inextricably tied to the people you allow into your inner circle.
Oh, I see. It's the old saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes, but applied with extreme mechanical precision.
Right.
The mechanics are what make it dangerous. You are constantly absorbing the autosuggestion of the people around you.
Even without trying.
Especially without trying. If your close circle is cynical, if they lack faith, if they constantly complain and quit easily, they are writing negative code into your subconscious operating system.
They're altering your reticular activating system.
They're altering your RAS to focus on obstacles instead of opportunities, without you even realizing it's happening.
Man, that is a deeply uncomfortable realization. If you aren't careful, the people around you are basically handing you blueprints for a building that is structurally designed to collapse.
That is exactly what they're doing.
Well, we have covered an incredible amount of ground today. We started by lighting the fire of a burning desire and learning how to program our brain's filtering system.
The engine of it all.
Right. We backed that fire with absolute faith, learning how to write the code of our own minds through autosuggestion and test our prototypes in the imagination workshop.
Getting the blueprints right.
Yep. Then we learned why we need a specialized lockpick instead of a general skeleton key, and how to apply the compounding hydraulic pressure of persistence.
The execution phase.
Exactly. And finally, we scaled that entire process by connecting to a mastermind group to achieve holistic, true wealth.
It is a complete, fully functioning architecture. And as you step away from this deep dive today, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
We now know the underlying mechanics of autosuggestion. We know that your subconscious mind is a terminal that accepts instructions without judgment. And we've seen the massive exponential influence of a mastermind group.
Right.
So take a hard, honest audit of the 5 people you spend the most time with in your life right now. Look at your coworkers, your closest friends, and the voices you let into your daily routine.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Are they serving as a mastermind that programs your subconscious with positive autosuggestion? Are they helping you apply hydraulic pressure to your goals? Or are they unknowingly programming you for doubt, acting as a virus in your mental software?
Wow. The people around you are either pouring the concrete for your foundation, or they are quietly dismantling your scaffolding. It is entirely up to you to decide who gets clearance to be on your construction site. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Step into your own mental workshop today, start auditing those blueprints, and we will catch you next time.